3 years, 41 missions, 0 mistakes. The cartel calls you Sombra, shadow. By the time anyone knows you were there, it is already over. They built you into the cleanest weapon they ever produced. 17 years old when they took you. A border town, nobody. A mother who worked double shifts until her hands bled. You did not choose this. This chose you. 41 men never heard the shot, never saw the rooftop, never knew your name. The 42nd was supposed to be the same. It was not. You turned the final corner, rifle in a canvas bag, hands steady, face giving nothing. The woman in the doorway 30 meters below your target was folding sheets, cracked hands, tired eyes, more gray than you remembered. Your mother. The cartel does not make mistakes with addresses. You knew that then. Tress put her there deliberately. A test, a message. You were never certain which. You had 1 second to decide who you still were. This is what happened in that second, born into this life. You were dragged into it, screaming, in the dark, with a bag over your head and dirt under your fingernails. Yours came on a Tuesday. Ordinary sky. Ordinary street. Extraordinary mistake of being exactly the right kind of invisible. You grew up in a border town with no name worth remembering. A place where the sun bleaches everything white. The walls, the roads, the futures. Your father left before you could walk. Your mother worked double shifts at a laundry until her hands cracked and bled every winter. You watched her disappear into exhaustion every night and swore you would find a way out. You just never imagined the way out would find you first. You were 17 when they came. Not kidnappers, recruiters. There is a difference. One takes your body, the other takes your soul. 3 men in a black truck parked outside your school. The one in the middle never spoke. He slid a photograph across the dashboard. Your mother, outside the laundry, taken that same morning. He said 2 words, "Come willingly." The alternative was understood without being spoken. You went. The camp was 6 hours into the mountains. No roads on any map. No signal on any phone. Just jungle so thick it swallowed sound and gave nothing back. They didn't call it training. They called it selection. And the first thing they selected out of you was everything soft. Everything that hesitated. Everything that still remembered what home smelled like. You ran with weight on your back until your knees split open. Beaten for slowing down. Beaten harder for stopping. Food was a reward, not a right. Sleep was a weapon they rotated against you. 30 days in, you stopped counting. 40 days in, you stopped feeling. Somewhere around day 50, something cracked open inside your chest, and whatever spilled out was quieter and colder and far more dangerous than the boy who arrived. You thought the hardest part was surviving the training. You had no idea the training was the easy part. They put a rifle in your hands on day 60. Long barrel, cold steel. A scope that collapsed the world into a small, perfect circle of terrible clarity. The instructor watched you line up your first shot at a target 300 meters away. Your breath slowed without being told to. Your heartbeat dropped. Your finger moved like it had always known what it was made for. The bullet hit dead center. The instructor made 1 mark in his notebook and walked away. That mark would change everything. They called you Sombra, shadow, because by the time anyone knew you were there, it was already over. Your first real mission, a rival cartel's logistics coordinator, bodyguards, armored vehicles, a rotating schedule that changed every 48 hours. Nobody could get close. Nobody needed to. Close was never your weapon. Distance was. Distance was where you were untouchable. You set up in an abandoned water tower 1 kilometer from his estate. Arrived at midnight. Waited 17 hours without moving. Without eating. Without making a sound. When he finally stepped onto his terrace with a glass of whiskey catching the last sun, you exhaled slowly. The crosshairs found him the way a compass finds north, not searching, just arriving. One breath out, half a breath held. The glass shattered before his bodyguards heard the shot. Shouting fading into distance. By the time they raised their weapons, you were already gone. Missions came and went like weather, each one colder than the last. You stopped seeing faces through the scope. You saw problems, solutions, geometry, wind speed, elevation. The human being on the other end became data, relevant only as a variable in an equation that always ended the same way. That was the machine they built you into, and the machine never missed. Your handler was a man called Tress. Never met him in person. Only ever heard his voice through a static heavy radio. Coordinates, distances, wind reports. Never please. Never thank you. You were a tool. Tools don't need conversation. 3 years dissolved like smoke. 41 missions. 41 solutions. 0 failures. 0 hesitations. That was the moment you realized the cartel hadn't sent you on a mission. The mission was you. Everything changed with one photograph, because the face in that photograph was someone you had spent 3 years trying to forget. No distance, no wind report, just an address in the city you grew up in, and a name you recognized the way you recognize a scar, immediately and in the stomach. The recruiter, the man who started all of this. The cartel was cleaning house, and you, the finest instrument that machine ever produced, were chosen to do the cleaning. You drove back to your border town for the first time in 3 years. It looked smaller, bleached harder. You parked 2 blocks away and walked the rest. Rifle broken down in a canvas bag. Face calm. Hands steady. They were always steady. But when you turned the final corner, you stopped. Outside, the target address was a laundry, steam rising from the vents. And standing at the open door, older, slower, hair carrying more gray than you remembered, hands still cracked from the cold, was your mother. She hadn't seen you. Folding sheets with the quiet focus of someone who has made peace with hard work. The recruiter lived directly above her workplace. The man you were sent to kill was 30 meters from the only person you had ever loved without condition or calculation. You stood on that pavement for 4 minutes and 11 seconds. You counted every one. It was the longest you had been completely still since the water tower. Trends, asking for confirmation, asking if the shot was clear. His voice flat and patient and completely without mercy. You reached into the bag, slowly, deliberately, but not for the rifle. You pulled out the radio. For the first time in 3 years, you spoke back. Target moved, location compromised, mission failed. Your voice was steady. Of course it was. 11 seconds of silence, the kind full of someone making a permanent decision about your life. Then 4 words. Flat. Final. We know you're lying. You dropped the radio into the storm drain at your feet, then walked to your mother. She looked up, and her face moved through 10 things in 2 seconds. Shock and relief and grief and 3 years of silence arriving all at once. Get your things. 40 minutes. No questions. No goodbyes. She didn't argue. Mothers from border towns learn early that some instructions exist to be followed without understanding. You drove through the night with both windows down. Behind you, the city shrank until it was just light, and then nothing. Ahead, the road was dark and open, and yours for exactly as long as it took them to find you. And they would find you. You had built that system yourself. You knew every part of it. But for the first time in 3 years, your hands were not steady because of training. They were shaking. Slightly, almost imperceptibly, but shaking. And somehow that tiny tremor felt more honest and more human than anything the rifle had ever given you. Your mother slept in the passenger seat, cracked hands folded in her lap, breathing slow and completely trusting. The last thing you saw before the mountain swallowed the road behind you was the laundry sign in your mirror. White light. Then nothing. Then white light again. Flickering like it couldn't decide whether to stay on or give up entirely. You understood exactly how it felt. You didn't look back a second time. No target. No coordinates. No mission. Just a road. Just your mother breathing beside you. Just the dark opening ahead like a question you didn't yet know the answer to. And for the first time in 3 years, that was enough.